What's going on? Welcome into another episode of the KZ Community Beat. I'm your host, Ross Martinez. In the hot seat this week, this is one I've been looking forward to for about 3 years now when I first met her. The Peorian mayor. Did I say that right? The mayor of Peoria?
Yes.
I'll be saying things interesting sometimes.
You got it, Ross.
But Rita Ali, thank you so much for coming in. I really do appreciate this. We met years ago when I first moved here. We were at
East Bluff Community Center.
Yes, we were doing a fun run walk. It was my first live event here in town. And I remember running into you. You were real cool, personable, and people told me, that's the mayor. I said, oh, well, should have dressed up at least.
I think I was dressed down that day for the walk, but yeah, it was fun.
That's how I know you're of the community.
Yes.
Now, I got a couple questions before we get into the gist of things I want to talk about. But who's on your playlist right now?
Oh, my goodness. I was not prepared for that, but it's always the old school music.
Because, I was raised on Soul Train. I'm not even lying to you. I'm from Chicago.
Oh, great.
We grew up watching Soul Train. My family still does Soul Train lines, like the JBs, James Brown, Rick James.
Absolutely. I love all of them. Ooh. But for slow music, I'm Al Green, Marvin Gaye, Anita Baker. You may not know those names.
No. Love and Happiness is my all-time favorite song.
Oh, okay, great.
And then when I'm having a stressful day, Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come.
Oh, well, I'm loving all of that.
Yeah.
Frankie Beverly and Maze, they were my favorite, yes.
You know how to step?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not really good. Chicago step, yeah.
Sal's raised. Now, I've been in Peoria about 3 years now. Okay. I got a couple guilty pleasure spots I go to on Friday on paydays. You've been Peorian through and through since the age of 6.
Yes, sir.
It's a stressful week. Friday, you don't want to cook. What do you order?
It's always seafood, mostly.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love seafood.
What's a good seafood spot here?
Oh, there's several. The Fish House is one of my favorites.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's good about Fish House? I've never been.
Yeah, the atmosphere, it's a real cozy type atmosphere there. You hear a lot of chatter, and it's kind of homey, but the food is really fresh, and it's really good.
So
that's one of my favorites.
So I might meet you if I go there one day.
You might.
Okay. Now, doing my research about you, like I said, you moved here at the age of 6, and you stood.
Yes.
If there's a lot of things I've heard in 3 years of meeting the movers and shakers and the nonprofits and the community activists, a lot of people say there's not a lot to do here in Peoria. But at the age of 6, apparently you fell in love.
I fell in love with Peoria. I went to public school here, and it's where I learned to read and where I learned to pronunciate, because I came from Hannibal, Missouri. I was homeschooled until I got to first grade, and I couldn't say things that started with an S. I would always have my tongue in the way, so seesaw would sound like the-thaw. And I learned, I learned how to pronunciate, and I just, embraced learning and education in Peoria.
You went to Manual, right?
I went to Lee School, Trewind, Roosevelt, and Manual High School.
I was just at Manual, their drumline instructor.
Oh, amazing.
Terrell.
Yes.
I brought him on the pod, and then he had me go out and see the kids do things. I was like, yo, the improvement they made within the year has been amazing.
They are great. They performed when the health department opened their new facility on Sheridan. Brand new. I hope everybody goes to visit or tour the facility. But the Manual drumline played, and they were just awesome. It was loud. They were handing out earplugs when you walk in the facility, but I didn't need the earplugs. I was ready to listen.
So since 6, you've been in this community.
I have.
What made you fall in love and want to stay where others decided to leave?
Really the people. I love the people of Peoria. I grew up in a 2-parent household in a working class family where my father worked at Caterpillar as a welder, and my mother, for the most part, stayed at home as a stay-at-home mother. And we had a neighborhood on the south side of Peoria where we took care of one another. Neighbors took care of neighbors. And so you embrace that. You grow up with that culture. It was a culture, kind of old school type culture, where they were committed to their family, committed to their education of their kids, and trying to make sure that they grew up right, making the right choices and doing the right thing.
I feel like that's kind of a lost art sometimes in
I
today's
do.
society.
I do. Because, we didn't have the social media that we have now. So we did things as a family. We talked at dinner. We didn't have phones at the table. We didn't have, earplugs in our ear pods in our
Yeah.
ears. So we were communicating, I would say, a lot more with one another and not with, other platforms. And I think that is kind of a lost art right now. But I want to bring some of that back. Some of the conversations that we need to have with one another, expressing ourselves and communicating our thoughts and feelings more effectively.
Who put that power of, I guess, curiosity would be the right word in you?
Sure, I think it was divine. I'm a sponge for learning,
Mm-hmm.
and so I learn, I read, I want more, and so I got inspired really by the people in the community, my teachers. I had my first teacher that looked like me, who was African American, when I was in seventh grade, and that was Mrs. Newsom. And I didn't think about being a teacher until I got Mrs. Newsom as my seventh grade teacher. Somehow that inspired me to think that I could be a teacher too. So I know the power of identification,
Mm.
the power of, see it, be it. And so that's why I like to try to be an example and give some exposure to young women and young people that look like me so that they can see you can be the mayor too, or you can be a doctor too, or you can be, you know, vice president of a college. Some of the things that I've, achieved in my life. I want to
Mm.
let other young people know that they can be anything that they want to be as long as they can see it, they can believe it, they can work together to achieve it.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
But on the flip, that's
Yes.
got to be a weight on the shoulders.
Absolutely. If there's a lot of pressure to be the first, there's a lot of pressure, to try to achieve big things. And the way that I try to do it to relieve some of that pressure is to do it in collaboration with other people. So
Mm.
all the weight's not on me, it's on us. So I
Yeah.
want to share the weight. I
Yeah.
want to share the struggle. I want to share the challenge. So it's just not my challenge, it's our challenge. And together we can achieve and overcome.
So let's talk about that. How are ways that you've been inclusive with bringing people in and organizations or individuals to help maintain the course correction and also the growth that you've envisioned before taking office?
So great questions, Ross. Once I took office in 2021, I became the first woman ever to become mayor of Peoria after 185 years. The first person of color, African American, to become mayor after 185 years. And so that broke the glass ceiling, right? And it means that, you know, now we know that I'm not the last. I was the
Mm-hmm.
first, but not the last. And so, right after I became mayor, a few months later, I put together a group of people to help reduce gun violence in Peoria with the police. So the police are not working over here, the community's working over here. There's issues of trust, with regard to police and certain segments of our community. I wanted to break those walls down and pull people together to work together. So I formed a safety network, is what we
Mm.
call it, a safety network, police and community, government agencies, not-for-profit organizations, just uh, neighborhood associations, just plain residents who want to be involved in the solutions. Bringing them together, it started with 50 people. And our first few meetings were at the police station.
Mm.
And thank God for Chief Echevarria coming on. I was part of that
Great guy.
hiring
Yeah.
process, bringing him here. He had that vision, too, of community and police working together to reduce crime, especially violent crime. And so for almost 4 years now, we have met once a month at Peoria Public Schools Administration Building on Wisconsin. On the second Friday of every month at 9 o'clock, we meet for an hour and a half. Multiple police, the chief is always there, the assistant chief is there, and then multiple police officers with many people within the community. So we have, anywhere between, I would say, 50 to 70 people at a meeting once a month.
That's
Second
God,
Friday.
baby.
And we talk about the problems, but more we talk about the solutions
Yeah.
and how we can work together with programs, strategies, initiatives, case management, referrals, and we see it coming down.
I'm glad you actually brought that up because that's part of questions I have here for you as we discuss. Crime is a big topic here in Peoria. We just saw the press junket of Erica Chavidia a couple weeks ago. Very passionate,
Yes.
as you tell. That man loves what he does for a
He
living.
loves Peoria,
He
too.
loves Peoria. You can
Yes.
tell he's embraced it. He's from Elgin. I had
Yes.
him on the pod.
Yes.
Plug, go listen to another episode, by the way. But to see that, right? And then I
Yeah.
start looking at metrics and I'm breaking things down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen some progress.
Yes.
Shootings are down 25%. Murders are down 36% from last year this time. So what's been working besides the safety? And how do we keep that momentum going? Like, what's the vision here? How are you and the police chief are actively working together to make this a reality?
Yes. So we're in alignment, and we've pulled in the community, just like the tip 211, people calling in to report crime. People didn't want to do that before because they didn't want to be a snitch, right? Now it's not looked at so much as being a snitch. It's looked at as helping to reduce, the problem. So we have improved relationships between the community and the police, help to build trust. And that's critical. I was at a meeting with healthcare and they were talking about some of the barriers with, certain segments of the community in terms of receiving healthcare. And they said the trust is missing in some cases. So we have to build that trust for people to participate or to, go get help. So here again, we're building trust with the community between police and the community because they're working together.
Yeah.
We're working together. There's lots of new programs over the past 3 to 4 years, new strategies, initiatives, working with the schools, many times the parents, the neighborhood organizations, and even the court system and juvenile detention.
Some things I've noticed about Echavarria himself, he plays basketball with the folks around town.
He does.
And people that are within, the industry or outside the bubble, they just know him as a community cat.
Yes. He'll work out with them too, right?
He's offered. I need to take that offer up, I'll tell you right now. But once trust is broken, it's hard to grow it back.
It is.
People in Peoria, they want to see real growth and they want to see it right now.
Right.
As we were talking off mic, planting the seed takes some time.
It does.
But some of the concerns I've seen, they want more business, more jobs, stronger neighborhoods. What are some of the biggest wins you've seen so far since you've been in office? And where do you think there's still work to be done?
Great question. So, yes, bringing violent crime down, that's one of the big achievements that I'm, happy to see, working with the police, giving them new tools. I don't know any case where police chief have asked for some resources to help, whether it's license plate readers or other tools, cameras, these Fuchsia's cameras, equipment, vehicles. We've approved everything that they've asked for. I don't know one single instance where we have not. So that's one area. And I would say in terms of business development, we took some of our ARPA funds and we provided almost 300 grants to new small businesses or existing small businesses that needed some additional help or capital.
Yeah.
As a business, as a small business or a new business, lack of capital is one of the reasons why they go out of business or they're not able to sustain. So we've provided grants, not loans, but grants to some of these businesses, and we've helped them to get a business plan written because one of our requirements for getting the grant is that you either have a business plan or you go to Bradley Small Business Development Center and let them help you write a business plan for free. So we've given some grants and, we've had some tools, tax increment financing tools to help some businesses to expand here or to, initiate a project here. One of my biggest pluses or successes is getting more housing here in Peoria.
Yeah, I saw that was a big thing for you.
Yes, there's a housing shortage in Peoria, state of Illinois, and all over the nation. But because we have a lack of quality, affordable housing, people go elsewhere. They don't move to the south side because there's not enough housing there, or quality housing there. So a lot of those people have moved out of the South Side. Now we have two projects going on. A new Churchview Gardens, which we're going to break ground on this week, is going to have about 52 units of family housing. And then we have where the old McKinley School was, we tore that down, and now we're going to have homes owned by the people that live in them, and they're going to help to build that homes in a program called Habitat for Humanity. So we're going to build 6 homes there in conjunction with Habitat. We're providing some funding. We also secured some federal funding for that project. So I'm very excited that we'll build 6 homes there this year, probably 6 next year, probably 6 the year after. We'll have a little, brand new little community there with homes that are owned by the people that live in them.
Yeah, I mean, affordable housing is definitely a big concern. As we talked, also homelessness is also a big thing.
Yes.
How did you guys navigate that? Because with what was it about a month ago, they had if you're homeless, you get a fine. How did you guys navigate that internally? Because that had been, you can't please everybody
Right.
and make sure everybody is happy. We
Right.
know that.
Right.
Sometimes you'll take hits here and there, and people are not going to be happy about that.
Right.
But how did you guys navigate that internally?
Yeah, so it's still a frustrating situation because it's not over. People think they don't see the encampments downtown now or around town, and they think it's over. No, it's not over. There was an ordinance that was presented. Actually, there were 2 different versions of an ordinance that was presented to end encampments downtown. Now, I'm a proponent for ending the encampments because I don't believe that they're safe, but I believe in doing it properly, right? Close down one encampment at a time, get these people into housing, either temporary or permanent housing, then go to the next encampment. This is a best practice that we've seen across the nation. Then go to the next encampment, and you just don't sweep them when our providers are saying there's not enough temporary housing in our shelters or our permanent housing. So unfortunately, the ordinance that was adopted by 6 members of the council, including incarceration for homeless people and large fines up to $750. We know that they can't afford to pay those. We know it's a burden not just on them, but on the taxpayers to put them in jail and incarcerate them. So there was another version that did not include the high taxes and the incarceration that we could have adopted and got better results. So right now we have a local organization that helped to get the individuals into temporary housing in a motel.
What's the organization?
Lula. It's called Lula.
Okay.
Lula organization.
Yeah, Lula.
Yeah, it's been around for about 2 to 3 years. 2 ladies co-founded it, and they have street credit with these individuals, and they've been helping them, providing them with food and support, some heating and blankets, clothing, definitely meals. And so they trusted these individuals, these young women. And so when they said, come to this motel, and they raised the money for the most part to get them in a hotel for a period of time, the people trusted them and they went.
Yeah.
So the city provided up to $80,000 reimbursement to Lula. The proposal was for $10,000, and I recommended up to $80,000. But that runs out at the end of February. And so we're going to be back potentially in a situation where people are back on the street again.
So with that looming, how are you guys organizing ahead to cut that off before we really get to the pivotal point of, all right, now the system's broken?
Yes.
Because we're trying to build trust, as you're saying.
Yes.
And I love that. I
Yes.
love that we have someone in office that wants to build the trust, that wants to cultivate and grow.
Thank you.
It takes time.
Thank you.
But sometimes you may be put at a crossroads where no matter what you decide,
Yes.
you're the villain.
Yes. I
So-
do. There are some behind the scenes things that are going on. Councilman Riggenbach and I toured a building this morning with staff to see if it had potential, to be a place that would require some renovation, potential place for temporary shelter, but we don't think that that place actually worked out because it would require a lot of money that we don't have. So we're still looking for some solutions, working with our providers. The good thing is that some of those individuals that were in the hotel have since, I think, at least 10 that have transitioned to either temporary or some pipeline to permanent housing. So some of them have been helped. It takes time. As you say, we can't, everything won't happen overnight. It has to happen in increments or gradually. And so that's the plan. But we will need more resources to help these individuals to transition from, the streets or their homeless situation or unhoused situation to housing.
Now, let me ask you this as more of a personal question when it comes to everything. You have Mayor Ali and you have Rita Ali. Sometimes those individuals may clash. How do you find a way to actually maintain who you are as an individual while also trying to service a full city?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
like
right.
we are in positions, like I'm a program director here. There's certain things I want to accomplish as Ross Martinez, the talent.
Right.
But then the program director understands there's the inner workings of things, and sometimes the talent can't always get things done that I want to do.
Sure.
So how do you address that internally sometimes?
Yeah, I like that analogy that you have. I think for me, it's integrated. There's Rita Ali and there's Mayor Ali, and they're integrated together because I need to be aligned. As mayor, I need to be aligned with my beliefs and my mission. And so I do believe that this is one of my missions in life, this job that I have right now. That's why I'm so dedicated to continue my work and finish what I've started in a second term. So we've made investments over these past 4 years, and some of it is planting a seed, like bringing passenger rail service to Peoria, Amtrak from here to Chicago and Chicago to Peoria and all those, all those places in between. And so we've made progress. We have investments, and we went from being a local project to a state project, state approved project, to a federally approved project where we have federal resources and a plan to make this happen in a few years. I want to see it through for Peoria. I don't want Peorians to have to drive to Normal or to Galesburg or to Princeton to catch a train to Chicago. And then, from there you can go almost anywhere else in the nation. But I want access to happen right here in Peoria. So, there's things like that, and continue to build the housing that we need and invest in our neighborhoods and our people. Our people are truly our greatest asset. And we have a workforce shortage. We don't have enough workers for many of the businesses that we have. There's over 2,000 jobs available open in our healthcare industry. But we have to get our people trained and certified to take those jobs.
Wasn't OSF just launched a new cancer ward or
Cancer Center?
Cancer Center, yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, with that, healthcare and mental health support have become bigger priorities,
Yes.
especially since post-COVID, right?
Yes.
What's the city doing to make sure people have access to care now that you bring it up?
Working with our partners. Really, we have great partners with the health department, with our huge healthcare system, with OSF and Carle Health. We also have Heartland Health, and we're a big healthcare provider in Central Illinois. And with some of the best resources and facilities in the entire nation. This morning I was at the Jump Training Center. It's innovative. They're practicing how to be excellent in healthcare, and they do a lot of innovative experiments and things like that. And really, their goal also is to help to build careers. And build our workforce, our future healthcare workforce. So they have a lot of young people in there. They had all these students in there this morning dressed in scrubs with their little, I was going to say hats or their little
bonnets
on. Yeah. They had their bonnets. They had their little, things on their feet. They were watching an open heart surgery.
Oh.
Not a real one, because it was the little dummy and the doctor,
Yeah.
and they were pulling the heart out, and he was, and I mean, those students were so engaged. That's what we have to do. And there were moving parts. The heart was thumping, the body was moving, and the students were all over it. They were so engaged. It was exciting and inspiring. And I
Yeah.
know they were thinking, hey, maybe I could be a doctor too.
You know, as you talk about that, your eyes widen up. I see I don't know if this is a good phrase now, but the glimmer of hope
Yes.
that you have a next generation that's going to empower, impact, and
Yes.
and take Peoria to a new level.
Yes.
Now, before we just keep going on with questions here, personally, as the 6-year-old kid who moved to town,
Yes.
got inspired, got involved at
I
a young
did.
age,
I did.
fell in love with the town and wanted to provide back, not as the mayor, but as the individual who moved here
Hmm.
and fell in love. How does it feel to see that growth, to see a new generation that is coming up and wants to use their skills just like you did to do something?
I'm encouraged by it because I see myself in those young people. I was a kid. I got involved at 14. My first political experience was running for freshman class president at Manual High School, which I did win.
Hey.
Yeah, and then I started joining boards, organizations. I was the first teenager to serve on the board of Community Action Agency. I was the first teenager to serve as a member of the Police Community Relations Commission. And I just continued to get involved because I had those examples of other leaders in my community who were involved, and they just started pulling me in. They started pulling me in, and I became agreeable. And then it gets in your DNA, it gets in your spirit, right? And then you just can't get away from it. Giving back
Yeah.
gives you so much. I mean, I get filled up by giving back. And I think that's what we want to do with our young people, help them build their character, give them opportunities. I started an internship program for 14 and 15-year-olds in
Nice.
Peoria.
Yeah.
They get to work, at least 100 every summer. They get to work and get paid $12 an hour, working 20 hours a week at a not-for-profit or government organization.
Nice.
And then every other Friday we have development days. So we have speakers come in and they talk about their careers, and they get to just talk and ask questions. But we want to build these young people up so they're not trying to get in trouble or steal cars or do something wrong, but they get inspired and encouraged to do the right things, and then they can contribute back to
Yeah.
our community.
You know, as I've been doing more research and meeting more individuals, interviews with nonprofits, teachers of the week, individuals that give back a lot. If there's one thing I've realized about Peoria, it's got a big heart.
Yes.
A big heart to give back.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I think Peoria gets a bad rap where they're always saying there's not much to do in town, this and that and a third. But arts and culture are huge for keeping the city's energy alive, as we both know. How do you see Peoria's creative scene playing a role in revitalizing the city, first off? And how is the city supporting local artists and cultural spaces? Like, I just talked to the Cultural Arts Center.
Yes.
Guy over there, William, I believe was his name.
Do you mean which center are we talking about?
Contemporary art right on the riverfront.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I just
Okay.
had him on for the podcast.
Was
editing.
it Preston? It wasn't Preston.
No, I
Okay.
want to talk to Preston.
Okay, great.
But the guy in charge, I think his name is William.
Yes, William.
Yes.
Yes, I know who he is.
The names all mesh around.
Right.
But again, the question is, what are we doing to keep the energy alive here in town?
You know what? You said the magic word, and that was creative. We have to be creative, right? And, Peoria, we don't have everything here, but we have a lot here. And we can be creative and create more things for Peoria. We're not far from Chicago or St. Louis if you want to go to the bigger cities and do things. But there's things right here in Peoria that people from Chicago and St. Louis come to right at our Riverfront Museum.
Mm-hmm.
They've had some very exciting things going on that have attracted people from all over. So I would say we have to be creative. Jonathan Romaine, when he had his art display at the Four Points Sheraton, people came from Chicago, St. Louis, Atlanta, and other places just to visit that exhibit. So I think we have a lot of artists here in Peoria, and it's attracting more artists. People kind of gravitate to areas where other people like them reside. So I think that we're getting more artists that are attracted to Peoria, and it's helping us be more creative. It's helping to, I think, it's helping to address some of our mental health issues because public art is good for our mental health.
Oh, I will say, as someone who's partook in some arts,
Mm-hmm.
the it's therapy, even to a
Yes.
degree. What we're doing here,
Yes.
having this conversation, getting to know you after every sit down conversation I have with a podcast, it kind of feels like therapy for me. Where
I'm going to
able
feel good when I leave here, Ross.
Well,
I'm unloading.
that's the hope. That's the hope, Rita. That's the hope. But it's places like Contemporary Arts Center
Yes.
or Proctor Rec
Yes.
or even in your backyard, East End. And we also
Yes.
have Art Inc., different organizations,
Yes.
nonprofits, and
Yes,
they're doing good work.
they are.
And we also have the Peoria Fashion Week is doing things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, shout out to Chanel and Ezra doing good
Absolutely.
things.
You know everybody, don't you?
I have to flex a little bit for you, Rita, just a little bit, let you know I'm of Peoria now.
Yes,
But, young people are the future in this city.
they
right?
are. They are.
Not only just people who are flocking into our community, but,
Yes.
Peoria has a long history and lineage of individuals here in town, like Richard Pryor,
Yes.
but also, was it Romeo Garrett?
Romeo B. Garrett was
Yes.
the first African American professor at Bradley University and a mentor, a living mentor of mine.
yours?
Absolutely, yes. I knew him very well. We were
Ah.
very close. And I had the opportunity to work as Bradley's first director of multicultural student services, work out of the Garrett Center. I am a Garrett scholar. I got to go to Bradley only because I received a Romeo B. Garrett scholarship. So
I didn't know that.
Yes,
I
he's
did not know
yes,
that.
very close to me, very inspiring person.
It's interesting how Peoria, as I do more research, we have what's the right verbiage for it? We have VIPs, people that do impactful things, use your skills to become a good representative of
Yeah,
Peoria.
and they're all ages, right?
Yes,
Our VIPs are all ages, all
all
backgrounds.
ages.
Yes.
Looking ahead, right?
Uh-huh.
What are the big things you want to accomplish for Peoria? Like you're a trailblazer up to now, but the story's not done. You still
No.
have things you want to do.
Absolutely.
So let's look ahead. What are some big things you have down the pipeline that, in hopes that you want to be able to cultivate, that you want to grow, that you need more
Sure.
time to make sure they get done?
Sure. So the way that I always get things done is with a plan, right? I have to have a plan. And usually it's written down or it's really in my head, but it's usually written down. Something as big as getting things done in a city. So one of my commitments before I got elected was within my platform is to form a strategic plan, a new strategic plan for Peoria. We did that about 2 years ago, bringing all the stakeholders together, deciding what was most important to move Peoria forward. We established 6 strategic priorities within our plan. One of them is create a thriving downtown. So that's one of our big priorities besides improving the quality of life and reducing, crime and some of those. I want downtown to just be really happening for Peoria. I see it as an area where people are living. There's a lot of people who want to live downtown. So they don't just have to work downtown, but live downtown. A lot of people that were working for OSF, that new beautiful building that they have downtown, they're coming back to work down there. Some of the core construction people are coming back to work in their building downtown. We have several buildings that are half occupied. They're big, old, historic buildings. We're going to turn those into a combination of residential, commercial, and retail facilities.
Yeah.
So, the Civic Center is happening. A lot of great things are happening at the Civic Center. But we have to make our riverfront amazing, clean up our infrastructure within the Central Business District, our Main Street, make our Main Street amazing,
Mhm.
and just, start having events and activities, more restaurants that are family oriented. That's what I want. That's one of the big things that I plan to accomplish over the next term.
So, percentage wise, where are we in this big structure of plans and goals you have? Are we at 25, 50, 75? Maturation takes time.
It does.
But for those that are looking and trying to itemize, where would you say you are with your strategy?
So I would say for downtown development, we have a ways to go, but it's happening fast. If you look at the construction of new lofts and housing, especially in the warehouse district, a lot has been accomplished,
I've
but we see
seen.
a lot of
Yeah.
growth. A lot more people going to be living downtown. Eventually, it's going to be so many people living downtown that I think that it will call for a grocery store and a pharmacy and more retail to this area.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's hard to put a percentage on, you know, 5 years from now. Uh, where are we now toward that 5 years? Maybe we are at for downtown development. Maybe we are at 20, approaching 25%.
I like that you brought up the grocery store thing. I interviewed what's his name, Chuck. He's the one that got the
Brown,
grant. Yeah, Chuck
yeah,
Brown.
Pastor Brown.
Pastor Brown,
Hmm.
real cool cat. Before moving here, I had no idea what red line districts and all this was, and it's cool to see someone in the community giving back. How does that align with your vision, also with things that you want to bring, not just to downtown, but let's say west south side of Peoria?
Sure. We're very hopeful and encouraged by CJ's Market that will open later this year.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the South Side has been a food desert, and mainly because it doesn't have the population to support, the grocery store and some of the retail shops. We lost Aldi, we lost Walgreens that moved up the hill. We lost Aldi's that moved across the river. We lost Kroger's. And so it has been a food desert for far too long. And so CJ's Market, I think, is going to bring fresh fruits and vegetables back to that area. But again, we have to get the population, we have to get the housing there to get the population that will sustain it. We have to have the people to support that grocery store.
That brings me to one of my next questions here. A lot of people feel like politics doesn't really affect them or that their voices don't matter. You historically, with respect, lost a campaign by one vote.
I did.
I saw that and I was like, whoa, okay. What would you say to someone who feels disconnected from all this?
I would say that local elections matter even more than national elections. Sure, national elections are important, but what happens in your day-to-day life, local policies and decisions definitely affect you. So get involved. I mean, don't say I don't my vote doesn't matter. I know it matters because,
Mm-hmm.
uh 8 years ago, boy, I forget how many now. I think 8 years ago, I lost an election by one vote. One
That's
vote.
crazy.
Yes, it's
That's
crazy.
something you would see on a TV show.
It is. Actually, it made national news. You know what, Ross? Had I not lost that election,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the mayor today.
How so?
So, because of the way that the election cycles run for mayor, had I been elected for fifth district, I wouldn't have run for mayor. I would have lost my fifth district seat, and so I
Huh.
wanted to run. So I took the loss well as you can. I'm a good loser, right? But like Muhammad Ali says, and I love him so much. He inspired me so much. He says, "You don't lose if you get knocked down. You lose if you stay down."
Mm-hmm.
So when I get knocked down, when things don't go my way, I got to get back up. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the attitude that we have to have. Because again, I lost and then I won. I lost the first time, and then 2 years later, I won at large city council by a landslide. And then 2 years later, I ran for mayor and I was elected.
Now I gotta ask. We've talked all throughout different policies, different
Hmm.
structure, your upbringing. Here we are now. For someone that has a big passion to give back, clearly from 14 to now, you've been giving back. Even when you lost, you still find a way to come back and give back. Why?
Because I'm driven. I'm driven. People have invested in me, beginning with my parents. My mother was my first teacher. My father was such a hard worker for his family, and they put so much into me and my siblings, and so they always pushed that you should do your best and give your best, and so it's part of the DNA. I have a responsibility.
Hmm.
So much has been given to me. I have a responsibility to help my community to thrive and help the people within my community to be the best that they can be. So I have a part, I have a role, and now that I have this big responsibility, I have more authority to make some changes that are necessary for people to succeed and to our city to be recognized as one of the best places to live and not one of the worst places to live.
Hmm. I mean, growth takes time.
It does, and it will take time. I ask people to, you know, give it some time, be patient. Don't be too harsh or critical because, you know, I get complaints, about any little thing that happens.
Hmm.
They let me know, and I want the feedback, but I'm not the governor and I'm not the president. I can do things, at the level that I work, and sometimes I can have some influence on a state level. Um, and we can all have influence on all those levels if we work together.
Yeah.
But yes,
What would you say has been your biggest accomplishment just as a Peorian so far? Not as the mayor, but as a
yes,
Peorian.
I would say it was in my work in education, where I've helped young people to get an education or training, not just college, but some type of certification or some type of training to help change or improve their life. I I was a youth programs director years ago, and I, I was with those students for 2 years in that program. It was a 2-year program called the Summer Training and Education Program, and they were young people that I just believed in and helped them to believe in themselves. And now they're like 48 and 49, and they're telling me, "You changed my life," or "You're responsible for what I am today." And many of them are very successful. So, and they're giving me credit, and that makes me feel really good that I was able to help somebody and help people that I don't even know what I did, but I was there for them. And there are people like that in my life that I credit with just planting a seed, being that example that made a difference.
Yeah, it took you a while to get to where you got to get
Yeah,
to.
because I was not the perfect child by any means. I've had some struggles. I've lived in poverty. I became a young single mother at 19, and I've had some struggles that I've had to overcome in life. I've, yeah, there's a lot of, I talk about the good things, but I, I learned from the mistakes. I've learned from the falls. I've learned from the bad choices, that I've made in life just as much as, the good decisions. I've learned from the bad decisions and the wrong paths that I've taken in life.
Do you mind me asking what a lesson you had to learn the hard way? Because we all have them. Uh,
Sure.
I have a couple lessons of loving the wrong people.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah, we all
Just
been there.
put that out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but just to break the tension of the
Yes.
question, but
Yeah.
we all have hard lessons that we learn
Right.
as an individual, as Rita, right?
Right. Right.
You've had to learn something. So, what's a lesson you learned that you carry with you every day as you sit in the chair, but also you're going out and grabbing food? So, what's a lesson you had to learn the hard way?
Right. Keep your word. Keep your word.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah, keep your word. I mean, it affects it's about integrity. And my father always said, your word means everything. And, as I was young, you didn't always keep your promises or deliver what you said you were going to deliver. And that's something that I hold very high now. If I say that I'm going to do something, if I commit to something, that I need to really commit to that thing
Mm,
because my word is everything.
yeah.
And so that's a lesson. I've made some mistakes there, especially as a young adult, where I did not I did not always fulfill what I said or promised. But
sometimes it's hard to deliver on
it is.
promises. I
It
just
is.
finished watching The Good Place, Netflix.
Okay.
Amazing series.
Oh.
My minors in college were philosophy, ethics, and psychology.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes we can promise, but sometimes the reality of the world, we may not be able to deliver. In those
Right.
times, how
Right.
do you balance your code of ethics with that, but also
Yes.
the reality of the world?
Right. So you're absolutely right that sometimes there's good intentions. You have, you're committed to something, but something keeps you from doing it, and that's where you have to face that reality and say, "I'm sorry, but I thought I could do this, but I couldn't.
Mm.
I couldn't, but I'm sorry." And I just, from the heart, I think we have to learn how to say I was wrong, and we have to learn how to say I'm sorry and please forgive me, and can we reset?
Mm. Now, that's a perfect way to transition to my last question, because I
Okay.
know you got a busy day. This podcast has become my collection of discovering the great things Peoria has, from the individuals that make our classrooms amazing, like Terrell Ford, or community organizations like Peoria Grown or Art Inc., where I've collected these stories. And every book, every story has a gold nugget. When you're done with it, you leave with that nugget.
Yes.
So when your time in this life is done and your story is over,
Yes.
what's the gold nugget you hope people get from your journey?
I want my legacy to be a legacy of having invested in people within my community, invested in people, and then having invested in areas that were disinvested in for decades. There were areas that were promised something that, was never maybe intended to be delivered. But investing in those areas that are the most needy. We have one of the initiatives that I helped to start was the new Peoria City County Commission on Racial Justice and Equity, and it focuses on 8 areas where there's great disparities that are based on race, and we have over 150 people that are working on solutions to try to close those gaps in those 8 areas. And so to make a difference, and even if it's a somewhat small difference, because it takes time, right? These are big systemic gaps that have been occurring for a long time. But to make some difference, that's what I want my legacy to be, that I made a difference that helped Peoria and Peorians.
I like that. I like that a lot. Rita, with respect, Rita,
Yes,
or Mayor Ali.
that's fine.
Well, Rita's fine.
Rita's fine. Absolutely, that's my name.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time, just to pick your brain on things, hear how you talk about body language, see your eyes light up. I'm a body language person, and I love seeing individuals when they start talking about things that light their soul on fire. So it's cool to be
Thank
able to
you.
see that throughout
Thank
this
you.
interview. Before we end, is there anything last thing you want to get out?
Well, I want to say thank you. This has been one of the best therapy sessions
Oh.
that I've had in a long time. I was able to really get things out, and you've really actually inspired me today.
Oh, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank
Hopefully, I
you.
can invite you back on in a year's time when we can have more conversation.
I hope so.
All right. Without further ado, that has been another episode of the KZ Community Beats. I am your host, Ross Martinez. Go back, check out all the other episodes. I appreciate you greatly. And as always, do your best. All right. We're out. Peace.